It's got nothing to do with any of that. However, those things are also nice. So in this video, the intention is to show you the two-step process that more or less has eradicated the majority of anger from my life. We could also include misery, self-pity, frustration in amongst the things that I have got under control in my life. It's not to say that these things don't arise. However, when they do, it's not as overwhelming as it might have been at other points, to the point where it would paralyze me and prevent me from doing anything. So let me take you a trip down memory lane very briefly. I spent the majority of my life angry and bitter and frustrated at the world, parents, at the economy, at politicians, at the country I'm from, amongst many, many other things that I'm sure you can relate to. I was really reluctant to take personal responsibility. I hated working. I hated having to do things I didn't like doing. I hated the fact that there was all of these societal assumptions that you were supposed to adhere to, like going to school, going to college, getting a job and all of this. And I felt like I was making decisions not for me, but for other people. And then I would regret those decisions and end up in a spiral of self-pity and frustration and blaming everybody except for me. So it was quite a disempowered state that I was living in. However, there came a point where things started to change for me. And that's what the bulk of this video is going to cover, is how I changed. And there was two steps. So the first step was to realize that there is an inevitable degree of suck in life. Life sucks sometimes. And that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It doesn't mean that somebody else made it so. It's just life. That's warm. And while things might suck in life, that does not mean that those things that suck cannot simultaneously be helpful. Shortly, I'll give an example of how I applied that first step to my own life. But first, I want to give the second step, which is perhaps the more challenging step. With step 2 was to take bold action in the direction of something that I wanted, knowing that that would also involve the inevitable degree of suck. So now we're clear. Life sucks sometimes, and things that suck aren't necessarily unhelpful. You see, the situation that I found myself in at the time, well, one of many situations, but at the time I was living at home, my family home with my parents, which is not what I wanted. And it sucked. But also, with this framework, with step number 1, we realized that while something might suck, aka living with my parents sucked, it didn't mean that it wasn't helpful. It was helpful in the sense that I had a nice home, I had shelter, I had space to do things. It also meant that I didn't have to worry about finances as urgently as I might have if I was renting somewhere. Now, step 2 in this scenario was to realize that I wanted to be somewhere else by myself. I wanted that independence, because we all know what it's like living at home when you're an adult. It's tricky. It's tricky to be yourself. It's tricky to grow and expand as an adult when you're in that family dynamic. And that's fine. We all go through that. But I knew that I wanted something different. And so for me, step number 2 meant that I needed to move out. But moving out meant that I would have to pay crazy rent. It meant that I would have to find somewhere. I think there's a terrible housing crisis here, as there is in most places. And I knew all of that was going to suck. And I'd have to, make more money and all these things. But life already sucked. So what would it hurt to have it suck a bit in that direction, And so, I got online and posted out a thingy on Instagram, and sure enough, I was blessed with a phone call a few weeks later, and there was a room for me in an apartment. And it was going to cost X amount of money, and I now needed to have that money to pay that rent every month. And so I moved along my way. Now, I was in a new situation, and it sucked. But it was more preferable for me because I woke up in my own place every day. I woke up feeling just, like an adult, invigorated, fresh, like I had some more purpose. And that meant that I was feeling better and motivated to work on business stuff, to work on artistic things, to work on videos, to work on music, to work on just cultivating the ideas that I share and learn and put out into the world. It sucked having to pay most of my money toward rent and to have nothing left at the end, but the value that I was getting is what I just mentioned. It was the experience that I had in this new place. And so you might be wondering, well, how does this make one less angry? Well, here's the thing. When you realize that life sucks and that it's always going to suck, but there's also light within that suck, you stop trying to get away from the suck. You release resistance to the suck. And when you release resistance to the suck, you welcome in more of that positivity because you just know suck is going to be there. And then you're not so surprised by it anymore. And so the need for anger just disappears because the thing that you were previously angry about was the fact that life sucked or life wasn't going the way you wanted. And when we let go of all of the expectation for it to be perfect, that energy that you're putting toward fighting it can be recycled and recirculated and used for something else. So now my life sucks to some degree, but I consciously chose the suck. Doing things that you don't want to do sucks. But there's always a benefit to the thing that you're doing. Otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. A soul destroying job, probably not great for your soul short term, but long term on a soul level you probably are expanding, but that's a different conversation. But you're getting resources from that job to, invest into food, invest into accommodation, invest into camera equipment, invest into workshops or learning new things. And when we focus on what's helpful about the thing that we're doing that we don't want to do, then it's a little easier. Feels a little more light knowing that it's pertaining to a bigger vision, a bigger goal for ourselves. When I first moved home to Ireland, I didn't have any friends really. And I didn't want to live here because of that reason. But by embracing the suck of committing to live somewhere that I didn't really have any friends, it meant that I dedicated time to going places by myself, to trying new things, and eventually I started to meet friends by going to these things. And it sucked, going places when I was all nervous and anxious and not knowing anybody, but it was helpful at the same time because now I've got friends that I can pick up the phone and call, and we can go swimming, we can go hiking, we can go on holiday together, we can just chat. But it's because I made that choice to embrace the suck of being a nobody, being a loner in a new place. It sucks to start a business, it sucks to start a YouTube channel, but when you embrace the suck for long enough, you're probably going to get a payoff at some point. You'll get that audience, you'll get the client base, you'll get the revenue stream, and then you'll have the flexibility. You'll have so much learning and lessons because you learn so much through this process. Embracing the suck is a prerequisite to getting what we want in this life. Because when we welcome in the suck, we also welcome in the light side of that, which is the beauty, the helpfulness, the thing that we desire. Life sucks, but you can do it. Thanks for checking this video out. This one right here is very important. One of the best ones I've put on this channel. Check it out.